You know that voice that pops into your head from time to time? Not the angry, judgy one, but the more rational one that typically has answers you're looking for. That's the inner knower. And in this video, I'm going to share with you how powerful that voice actually is and what happens in your life when you actually follow the very clear path that it's laying out for you. There have been a few times in my life where I know that I needed divine intervention. Oftentimes it was business related, sometimes related to family or friends. But in the moment that I heard my inner knower, I knew that I would listen to that guide forever. Years ago, I owned a mortgage company. It was actually in the pit of the subprime mortgage crisis in 2007 and 2008. And at the time, I was experiencing a slowdown in mortgage closings that resulted in me not being really sure how I was going to pay the lease on the commercial office space where our company was located. On the way into the office one morning, I called a friend of mine and told him the situation, and he gave me some really valuable advice. He said, "Adam, go to your office, close the door, get really quiet, and ask yourself a couple of questions. Number one, where am I closest to money? And number two, who should I call first?" So I got to my desk, I closed the door, I got really quiet, and I asked myself those two questions. And at first, there was nothingness, just silence and mental chatter. And my friend told me that was completely normal, but to sit with it, to get quiet, and to ask the question again and again until something came up. And I asked him, "Well, how will I know?" He said, "Trust me, you'll know." So after a few minutes of getting quiet, sitting with myself and the question, a name just seemingly popped into my head out of nowhere. It was someone I'd gone to college with, who I hadn't talked to in years. So I wrote that name down and I went back to asking the questions and getting quiet. And the second name that popped up was someone that I'd met 2 weeks earlier at a networking function, but I hadn't really done an effective job of following up with. So I wrote his name down and again sat and got quiet. At that point, it was almost total silence. So at that moment, I reluctantly picked up the phone because my friend said, "Whatever name comes up, immediately call that person." I reluctantly picked up the phone and I called my friend Erin, this friend of mine from college. And she said those magic words when you call someone and tell them who you are and why you're calling. She said, "Adam, it's so weird. I was just thinking about you." As it turned out, Erin had gotten a promotion. She was now in charge of campus activities at this community college where she worked. And they had an event coming up the following week on a Thursday, and the speaker that she had scheduled canceled, backed out at the last minute, and she was desperate. She said, "You were the first person I thought of. I just hadn't had a chance to call you yet." And in that moment, I booked the gig for the following week, and again in that moment, enough money came in to cover the lease on a rental space for that month. So I went 2 for 2. I made the second call, called the gentleman that I'd met a couple weeks earlier at a networking function, and just said I had a nudge to get back in touch with them. Again, he said, "So interesting that you called. I'm actually planning an event next month that my company is sponsoring, another networking function, and I know that you said you like to talk about networking. Is that something you'd be interested in?" So I went 2 for 2 on the calls, both of them cash generating calls, both of them coming from just listening to my inner knower and trusting that those were the people I needed to touch base with. I've literally used this strategy hundreds and hundreds of times, and the results are almost always the same. I don't always get a gig out of it, but it's almost always positive. It's forward moving. Something's happening that's taking my business or my life where I want it to go when I get quiet and I trust the inner knower. It's as if we know what the answers are deep inside. We just never get quiet enough to hear the answers. Practice this yourself by asking your inner knower, what is the next call or email or task that you need to do? And just get quiet and trust that the answer is the answer. Go even bigger by watching the video in the link down below about asking bigger questions, and then listen to your inner knower come up with the answers to those bigger questions. While you're at it, take a look at some of the meditations, some of the guided visualization audios that are also here on this channel. And while you're there, comment, subscribe, and make sure that you come back to this channel often for more Build a Bigger Life content. Here's to trusting the inner knower. I'll see you on the other side.